So this episode of Raw started off in quite the OMG manner because we had Gunther opening this episode of Raw up. He had to come out basically to do his usual gloating, his usual trolling, generate a bit even more heat than he already has when AJ Styles comes out, dressing the previous match they had, AJ Styles is going, I had you, and you tapped out. Justin Gunther was able to address this without admitting that he had tapped out. He was basically just like, look, I proved that I was a smarter wrestler than you and whatnot. Gunther had announced that he he's going to be a participant in the Royal Rumble. When AJ Styles had basically said, well, at the Royal Rumble, I want us to have a rematch as well. Gunther was like, well, that would include me pulling double duty, and I'm not going to do that just because I don't want to. So AJ Styles was like, it sounds like you're kind of scared. And this was the first time we had seen maybe a hint of the crowd and AJ and all of that kind of getting under Gunther's skin, which was the only thing about this little segment that I didn't really necessarily like. I didn't feel it was I felt it was a bit out of character for that. I think it would have been made a bit more sense for Gunther just to continue that kind of smugness and that kind of, just sort of brush this off. But he basically just reiterates that he's already proven that he's a smarter wrestler, at least in his mind. And so the answer is no. He goes to exit the ring when he has a change of thought, and he goes, on second thoughts, maybe there is something. Maybe there is a way we can work this. And he gives AJ Styles the opportunity that if he has a match with him at the Royal Rumble, he will want AJ Styles to put his career on the line as well. And this is going to be obviously the big talking point. And it's a tricky one, right? So straight off, so basically, AJ Styles has been saying, obviously, 2026 is going to be the year of his retirement. For some reason, we kind of thought it was going to be later in the year. None of us are ready to say goodbye to AJ just yet. I believe his contract is up in February, so it would kind of make sense. And at least from a business sense, right? I guess if a person's contract is up in February and they've already announced that they're going to retire that year, at least from a business standpoint, I would understand Triple H not renewing that contract from like a business perspective, I guess. But none of us are ready to say goodbye to AJ just yet. It could be a full retirement. AJ could go on and go into AAA or New Japan or whatever, like for the remainder of the year. Who knows, right? But all of these stars are starting to align that we're going to get the Gunther retiring AJ at the Royal Rumble, right? That would be it seems to be like the stars are aligning for that. It could go the other way. It could all be a ruse, of course. You could have AJ win, but I think the problem with that is that I think that so many people were ready for, after Gunther had tapped out John Cena, we thought that there were so many of us that believed that the only thing that could really justify that, the only thing that could justify sucking the air out of the audience in that manner is for Gunther just to become this big monster, this big eater of worlds, right? And I think that this is why the whole kind of trolling Gunther hasn't really landed with a lot of people, that was the one segment, and also the fact that Gunther had done this U-turn and proposed to AJ that he would give AJ what he wanted if he was prepared to put his career on the line. It was the first bit where we really got that real big bad that Gunther is meant to be. And I mean, you could go the other, like I said, you could go the other way. You could have AJ win, but I think it just doubles down then on the big kind of heel that Gunther's meant to be. I mean, a lot of people have been comparing the enormity of Gunther tapping John Cena out to Brock Lesnar defeating The Undertaker streak at WrestleMania, and he just goes on this big rampage. I mean, I just think that so many of us are expecting the same for Gunther, right? So in the manner of speaking, I think that if Gunther lost, I think there would be a fair amount of backlash and criticism there as well. And that's the problem that it's got, right? I mean, in terms of stakes, in terms of intrigue, Royal Rumble is shaping up to be an absolute banger, right? Because now we've got this match, we've got obviously the 2 Royal Rumbles, we've got the Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre against the winner of the Fatal 4-Way. And, so Royal Rumble is shaping up to be a banger in terms of the stakes, in terms of the intrigue, right? But I do think that this match creates a bit of a booking problem for the Royal Rumble, right? Because if we're going to go with the assumption that Gunther retires AJ at the Royal Rumble, where exactly in the show do you put that on? Because I can't see this main event in Royal Rumble over the men's Royal Rumble, right? So this is going to be somewhere in the middle, and it's going to be, and if Gunther retires AJ, I think that is just going to be such a emotional sucker punch for the audience, for everyone watching, that I don't know if they're going to necessarily be able to pick themselves up and get themselves pumped up again for the men's Royal Rumble or what is going to follow. So it does create a little bit of a booking problem, I think. It ends up being a bit of a double negative as well, because like I said, if AJ gets retired, we'll be bummed out. If Gunther loses, we'll also be a little bit bummed out, right? So it just kind of, it just feels, I think that this is great, like I said, in terms of creating something that has huge stakes and has that intrigue and investment. But at the same time, it is a bit of a double negative as well, because I just think, no matter what happens, we lose kind of thing. This episode of Raw also had the main event between Finn Balor and CM Punk as well, and this was amazing as well. And I gotta give props to the selling from CM Punk here, because I think a lot of us, we all know the superb ability, what a great in-ring performer Finn Balor is, right? But he just has not been utilised to a max by WWE, at least in the last couple of years or whatever it was. And it just feels like... so when this was announced that he was going to get this title shot, of us were like, well, that makes no sense, right? He's just been on this downward trajectory. He's been like, and it just sort of doesn't really make sense. I know you could make the same argument maybe with Drew McIntyre against Cody Rhodes, but Drew McIntyre's character had also been built up to be this big like destroyer as well, big scary guy, right? So, and it was kind of like, whereas Finn Balor wasn't. So it was a bit But CM Punk absolutely sold this. He was able to just go out and really, really sell this match. We had Finn Balor coming out to his old theme tune again, so that was great. And that was just another example of how sometimes somebody's entrance theme can just elevate somebody as well. And I think this perfectly showcased that. And while none of I mean, I suppose there were some people who, especially after seeing Cody Rhodes get dethroned by Drew McIntyre, there were some who were kind of like entertaining the fact that Finn Balor could dethrone CM Punk here. I didn't personally ever believe that was going to be the case. But boy, were there some spots in this match that made me question that, that made me doubt it, you know. But yeah. Ultimately, guys, with this match, it ended with CM Punk retaining. It ended with the two embracing. So I think that we got indications here that we are going to have Finn Balor leave the Judgment Day. We are going to get a little bit of a babyface Finn Balor again. That's all I'm kind of prepared to really commit to at the minute. I want to say that this is going to be the push for Finn Balor as well, but every time I try to believe that, I end up getting squashed. So I'm not going to say that, but I do think that and I guess his departure from the Judgment Day can happen in one of two ways, right? It could happen with we have just the dynamics here. We have Dominic Mysterio being the Intercontinental Champion. We have Raquel Rodriguez, who almost certainly will dethrone Stephanie Valkyrie for the title. We are going to also have Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez being the #1 contenders for the tag team champions against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. So, you know, there's a potential, at least, for all of the people in the Judgment Day to have gold apart from Finn Balor, and maybe that could create a bit of a turn and he gets kind of kicked out that way, and maybe him kind of embracing CM Punk as well just kind of fuels that maybe. The other way they could do it is just have this complete dismantling of the Judgment Day, which brings me on to the next segment in this show, where we had Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez come out to basically have this face-off against Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. And obviously they've got their match at Saturday night's main event. And I still don't know how this match is going to turn out, right? I believe, though, but just looking at the dynamics, and I hesitate to say this because it sounds I'm being like disparaging against Roxanne Perez, which I don't mean to be, because I love Roxanne Perez. I think she's a fantastic in-ring performer, and I think that she's a real credit to the roster. But just the way that she's been utilized in WWE, she's been the most expendable. At least when you picture against Liv Morgan or Rhea Ripley or Io Sky, right? Who always seem to have a little more protection around them, I suppose. So I would say potentially you could feasibly see Roxanne Perez taking the pin here. There is also maybe a sneaking potential that we are going to get Liv Morgan turning on Roxanne Perez. I kind of hope, like, we basically had this little bit of, ever since Liv Morgan returned, where she's been giving Roxanne Perez these long kind of glares. She's been a little bit building up a newfound love and friendship for Roxanne Perez a little bit too much. It all just comes off a bit fake, a bit artificial. You know that there's a snake in the grass here somewhere. You know that it's kind of coming. yeah, it just I if they do pull the trigger and they do have Liv Morgan turn on Roxanne Perez, I'm kind of hoping that it ends in this it's executed in the way that I just said, that we have Roxanne Perez eating the pin and then we have Liv Morgan turning on her and kind of justifying it with her somehow feeling that Roxanne Perez has somehow costed them the match, right? And I think that would be a better way to go, rather than just kind of call upon all of the past and, you know, feeling that Roxanne Perez stole her place in the tag team championship and all of that. You know, I think that in some ways we can just maybe forget that a little bit for the time being, and maybe just use this loss as a catalyst for that. And, you know, obviously Roxanne Perez will be kind of intertwined in all of that, so you can always circle that background and tie that little bit up as well, where you can have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez having these exchanges, and you can have Liv Morgan kind of refer to that, and you know, you can always like loop around, and you can all kind of tie it up, I guess. Yeah, I think that the most feasible way, I mean, we never really fully got them pulling the trigger on the whole Finn Balor turning on Dominic Mysterio as well, and so I think that maybe if you had take Finn Balor out of a Judgment Day, you could always circle that background in the Fallout as well, and you could have him go after the Intercontinental title against Dominic Mysterio. I think that's another feasible play as well. We had some backstage drama in this episode as well with Adam Pearce after what had happened when he had suspended Bron Breakker, and obviously we had Paul Heyman go totally lawyer on him and be like, well, you know, technically you put your hands on him first, you know, and thing. We had Adam Pearce take his mystery phone call, and then we had kind of got this teaser that maybe Adam Pearce was going to get fired, and I hope that doesn't happen, right? I hope that Adam Pearce does stay on as GM, because I just think he does such a great job of that. You know, I really buy into his character and his role. He really makes you believe. It makes you believe that he believes that he's the actual general manager, and he's actually, you know, you really buy the stress and the pressure that he's under week in and week out, and, you know, you feel like he's got to go through this to provide for his family. You know, you really, he really sells it. I do. I think that he does a great job in that. I mean, I think that you could. So I'm hoping they don't do that. I hope Adam Pearce does stay on. I do think that we are basically the upshot of this was we were going to have Bron Breakker return into Raw next week, and we were going to talk to Adam Pearce and, you know, try and kind of resolve it all, which does open the door potentially for him to enter the Royal Rumble. So that'll be another topic for another video, I think. But yeah, there's definitely I thought they were going to play a little bit of a longer game. I thought maybe we were going to keep this going until maybe just after the Royal Rumble, so Bron Breakker just misses out on the Royal Rumble and maybe insert him into the Elimination Chamber, maybe. Yeah, maybe they're not doing that now. Maybe they are just kind of hitting a fast forward on this, maybe to get Bron Breakker into the Royal Rumble, perhaps. So we had an absolute fantastic match as well between the Vision and the Luchadors as well. This was just an absolute chaotic match. It was just fantastic. It was just just absolute chaos in the best possible way. We had the luchadors picking up a win after Logan Paul tried to use the brass knuckles, and then Adam Pearce was like, no, you don't. And then there was an open for Rey Mysterio then to use the brass knuckles on Austin Theory, I think it might have been, and pin Austin Theory. I mean, I do have like a little bit of niggles when you have a babyface do this heelish thing and then kind of go, well, technically we didn't bring these things into the match, so it's the game. And then you go, yeah, but you still kind of need the baby faces to have a total separate moral code to the heels. Otherwise, what's the point in having those divisions, right? I mean, I think my only other niggle here is that we've got Austin Theory taking the pins here, which I feel could be a trend, right? And I do think that we could. And just the way that they had brought Austin Theory into this group of him being the hooded figure and all of this. And then, he's just kind of taking the pins, and I don't think he's really necessarily connecting with the crowd, and that's not Austin Theory's fault. I think that he's a great in-ring performer. I think he does great, but I just think that every time they try and sell Austin Theory, they just end up trying to sell the same character, the same type of heel. And I just think it's got to a point now where you need to give his character total 360 in order for to maybe kind of make some leeway with that. There is this theory going around that Austin Theory is just this mole from Seth Rollins, which I think would make sense, and it would open that door for him to have that baby face turn and do that 360 with his character and do something completely new and experimental with his character. I think that, and obviously you would have that obvious swerve as well, of him being the mole. But I just feel like it just needs something. It needs a 360. It needs that shake up, right? Because I think Austin Theory can bring a lot of great stuff to the company. He's just not being utilized in the right way, I don't think. We had much here between Javon Evans and Grande Americano, which ended up cutting short after Javon Evans sustained a knee injury. We have had an update since then and said that fortunately he's okay. We had some people, commenting, oh, it was such a shame that he kind of robbed us and they broke the flow of a match and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? A man's health is more important, right? And if he had tried to carry on, fight through it, he could have been off for months, right? And, so it, and just you can't really have that, especially the talent and the push that Javon Evans is on, right? So I absolutely think Javon Evans made the right call. This was absolutely the right call. Just glad he's okay. So we had the rematch for the Intercontinental title as well in the women's, with Becky Lynch defending against Maxine Dupree. This was a much better match than the last match that they had, right? I think the number of counters, the in-ring performances were great. I just think the in-ring ability was great. I just thought that this was really good stuff, right? And this feud has just elevated Maxine Dupree a whole load, right? I just I don't know why people still want to chant like Becky Hogan at Becky Lynch online, right? It's just because it's so obviously she's got Lyra Valkyria over, she's got this feud to get Maxine Dupree over, and we have, but the biggest talking point of this match was that obviously we had Natalya come out to accompany Maxine Dupree, and straight off, just the fact that she was present at ringside, it made me start to get a little bit suspicious. I thought, are we going to see a heel turn here from Natalya? And that is what we ultimately got, right? And we were basically going to how this had basically all come about. We had Maxine Dupree go for the cover on Becky Lynch, but she was like right in the corner. She was like, wait, and as soon as she went for the pin, I was like, what are you doing? That is way too close to the ropes. Like Becky only has to raise her foot slightly and it's on the rope. Right? I just like it was so like such a bizarre, and so she's going for the pin, and Natalya just puts Becky's foot on the rope, and then we have basically this opens for Becky Lynch to steal the win again, and then Natalya turns on Maxine Dupree, beating Maxine Dupree down. We don't know what Natalya's like rationale is, but she's screaming that you never learn. So I'm guessing that this could be the play, right? That this could be that Natalya could be a crease type heel, you know, where she's kind of like this sort of like, I've been training you, I put all this effort into you, and you're just making stupid mistakes like this, and you know, you lost, you're losing, you know. I feel like that could be the kind of angle, and it works, right? Because I don't think you need to move on from this Becky Lynch, Maxine Dupree stuff now, right? It's fulfilled its purpose. Obviously, we move on to Becky Lynch against AJ Lee probably, and so you need to continue this elevation of Maxine Dupree. You need her to do something. So obviously, heel turn from Natalya. Kind of like provides that's going to be ultimately the purpose of all of this, to I think elevate Maxine Dupree to that next level. So I can see Maxine Dupree obviously winning this feud with Natalya, and yeah, it just works, right? It makes perfect sense. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that pretty much wraps up everything that we saw in this episode of Raw. I'm sure maybe I missed something, but yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your own thoughts on this episode of Raw was, and let me know also about what your little predictions are, what your little fan theories are going forward, all of our fun stuff. Let me know down in the comment section, and until next time, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.